Hello and welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Captain Kibs, signing on, doing something he probably shouldn't today. Today, we're covering Total War 3 Kingdoms, Diplomacy Gameplay Reveal Part 2. Now, the reason why we're covering this is well, there's actually a couple of reasons. One, I am a huge fan of the Total War franchise. But second, I want to reveal this. I am very much opposed to where Total War has been going the last few, games with the streamlining and casualization. Total War Warhammer, I like Total War Warhammer 2. I like what it's becoming, but it's a whole other mess. We'll get into it, more reasons as to why I'm sort of like, Like, I like what it's turning into slowly, but over I can't justifiably, the cost. It's ridiculous. Either way, without too much further ado, we are going to get into this. So let's take a look, and I'm going to actually let the CA guy speak, and then we're going to listen to what he has to say, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the next in our two-part series examining diplomacy in Total War 3 Kingdoms. 3 Kingdoms marks the most extensive rewrite of Total War's diplomacy system to date, and in the last video we covered deal-making, haggling, saber-rattling, and more. Today we'll be dealing with the different forms of alliance and how they can help you to broker major blocks of power across the campaign map. There are now 2 key forms of alliance, coalitions and military alliances. Each offers different levels of choice, commitment.
So one thing I first noticed here is I think is really cool. And the first thing that pops in my head, right? I'm seeing this like this noble rank as you can ascend from a second marquis to a duke to a king to an emperor. And I'm thinking medieval 2, right? Like first thing that pops in my head. And that just makes me honestly want another Total War medieval game, but that's just my personal preference. Now, in terms of like depth, the game seems to actually be adding a lot more depth to diplomacy. Already off the bat, we have this whole ranking system, which seems kind of interesting. It seems like we're taking steps back from casualization and into adding depth. Depth is good. And with a good UI and good controls, you can make a very complex game appear rather simple. And I don't know. Let's just take a look.
Also share some important features. Both forms can have multiple members, enabling you to build large power blocks for mutual benefit. And simply by being in a coalition or alliance with other warlords, your diplomatic standing with the other members increases.
So I'm wondering what the difference between negotiate and quick deal was. Did he hover his mouse over that for a second? Because
standing with the other members increases.
I want to know.
With other warlords,
quick deal and negotiate. Quick deal and negotiate. That's interesting. Quick deal faction list. Like, okay. Right off the bat, I'm just a little bit confused with the whole quick deal system. Now, we do have one thing I want to point out is the overworld map. We've got all the basic tabs. That's always nice to have, just displaying information. There's a bunch of options here, and he's going to hover his mouse over some of these, and that's actually really interesting because a lot of these diplomatic options here are actually new, which is a first because Creative Assembly, it's been a while since they've actually been creative, since they've actually started adding things into it, like supporting vassal independence, that's completely brand new. Creating vassals, that's nothing new. Demand abdication, new. Demand autonomy, new. Confederate, not new. Form military alliances, not new. Form coalition, that's new. Military access, nope, nope, and nope. So, and there's a scroll bar. I like depth. I like the idea of being able to play Total War, and have a diplomacy function. Granted, the game needs a lot more meat to it in terms of city building if they want to actually push the whole peaceful side and try to push the campaign of like more peaceful conquest and things like that. And they did add in the ability to trade settlements again. Now, hopefully it won't be like Empire Total War where it'll be like some fucking random schmuck, Xiao Xiao over there. Goes and like, give me your most valuable territories, and Chow Chow sitting there with one territory, and he's asking 100 monies. Hopefully we have a mute button for the powers, because I like the ability to just be like, no, fuck off. Fuck it. I don't want to deal with your shit.
Diplomatic standing with the other members increases.
Okay, he's actually hovering his mouse over these, so we're going to rewind a sec here, and we're going to let him highlight them. So, fuck, he goes fast. Right, probably because I need to slow it down just a bit. All right, there we go. All right, so military access, negotiate military access agreement. That's nothing new. None of these are new here. Let's see.
The other members.
Okay, form coalition. Non-binding military agreement to combat mutual enemies. Negotiations are independent of the group. Okay, interesting.
Increases.
A binding agreement, members vote on war declarations and other pertinent negotiations, and are obliged to aid in wars. So that's your standard form military alliance. That's the whole, you know, if an ally goes to war and he calls you, you are obliged to join him. If you refuse, you take a huge penalty to your reliability and the diplomacy, and every faction will always look at you and be like, yeah, no. And in some Total Wars, it will take, like, nearly 100 turns for that to fucking recover. Total Warhammer, you have low reliability. It's going to take a while to rebuild that. Granted, the diplomacy is so bare bones and so minimal that there's no real point in actually even using it properly. And forming military alliances in previous Total Wars is actually something I just don't even do at this point, because half the time the AI will drag you down and force you into wars that are really just impractical, or they'll just declare war on random suckers, or get declared war upon. So it's like, not really worth it in my opinion. Never has been, but we'll see with this one. It really is a huge depending variable on the AI. And it is still in the Warscape engine, which I am not a fan of and have never been a fan of for a very, very long time. The only games I thought that were interesting that came out of Warscape was Napoleon Total War, Shogun 2 Total War. Total War Warhammer to a degree has very interesting things about it, but it's less of the engines doing, more of Warhammer's actual doing, of Warhammer Fantasy.
Coalitions and military alliances also benefit the mobility of your armies.
He didn't want to fucking move his mouse over the other stuff.
Shao, who's currently besieging a town owned by the Han Empire. As he's in enemy territory, we can see he's getting a major...
So, they have the enemy territory thing. God damn it. They have the enemy territory thing back again, so you get different things. So, negative supply factors, minus 40 for hostile territory, minus 25 due to climates. Total change. Now, can your armies acclimatize? That's one thing I want to know.
In enemy territory, we can see he's getting a major negative to his army's military supplies each turn. Meanwhile, his eldest son, Yuan Tan, is holding the front at home, and instead gathering supplies each turn. Coalitions and military alliances give you new tracts of friendly territory in which to rest, replenish, and resupply before striking out into enemy lands once more. So let's break down the two forms of alliance. A coalition is a looser, lower commitment sort of arrangement than a military alliance. Forming a coalition is relatively easy as long as you have a neutral or better diplomatic standing with the other party. Being at war with a mutual enemy is also a definite bonus, of course. Let's see if we can get a coalition signed with Liu Bei. He names his price, which we can well afford, and yes, the pact is signed. Now, if we arrange the diplomatic faction list by group, we can see we're now part of the newly formed Thundering Sky Coalition.
Oh, can you name your coalitions? Like, I know, it's not the Sacrificial Tree Alliance. Oh, that gives me a little bit of cancer. The fucking special. The Thundering Sky Coalition. I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds cool. Like, I like the ability to name shit. Like, because I am an English speaker, and I'm not a huge fan of the Chinese language, like Hanfu, Yanchao, Gaogang, Libu, I don't know how to pronounce half these things, Xiao Xiao, like, that half that shit's getting renamed, so fucking, if that is an option, which I hope so.
Any member can invite another warlord to join. But like many major actions that a warlord wishes to perform in a coalition, the consent of all parties is required. So if we go on to invite a new warlord to the coalition...
I kind of like that, actually. I like the ability to do that because now we have a lower commitment-based alliance, and now we don't have to worry about fucking the AI being an absolute ditbag. But granted, we don't know. Like, we're going to have to see a long extended campaign.
Coalition, for example, the action will be voted on by the other members, and the majority rules. So if we propose inviting Cao Cao to the coalition, for example, we can see Liu Bei looks well upon this. Diplomatic standing plays a strong role in voting, of course, so the higher your standing with other members, the more likely it'll be that they'll vote in favour of any coalition action you declare. Now that we're in a coalition, we gain visibility over our fellow members' lands, where our armies can, of course, now resupply on their travels. In addition, you can only switch characters and their retinues out of armies in friendly territory, and allied territory counts as this. Being in a coalition also means you're strengthening ties with increasingly friendly factions that might join you in your wars, but that is not a given. This early in the game, for example, with relatively small holdings and wars of their own to contend with, our coalition pals may not be so inclined to join in. As a loose arrangement, there's no formal obligation for coalition members to join each other's wars. So as we declare war on Yuan Shu, we see there's no vote required. We can then, of course, go cap in hand to our coalition members afterwards and seek their individual support in such a war. But their military support will still need some negotiation, especially if a coalition member is friendly towards the warlord you've just declared a war on. In short, you can merrily engage in private wars without involving the entire coalition. Coalitions.
So again, we see marriage make a reappearance. That's interesting. I'm not sure if we'll see the family tree return. I don't think so, if I remember. Because I was looking into this game and I stopped and I was like, eh. And then that was back when I got out of covering Total War. But either or. The Three Kingdoms setting is interesting and all, but it's rather boring and bland. And I feel like we're going to suffer the Shogun 2 treatment of just not very much. Now, the Three Kingdoms will see a lot more, quote-unquote, diversity in unit rosters. But it's still going to be pretty plain Jane because it's really just a couple of cultures. Even though China is not technically well, there's no such thing as real China, because it's actually just a multitude of subcultures within it, but technically it's an empire, but hey, it's the Qing Dynasty. Not the Qing Dynasty, wait, what the fuck, that's way later. Hold up a second, fella. Request food trade. So this is interesting. You can request specific things to trade. This is something I like. Request, or even trade ancillaries as well. Issue ultimatums, The diplomacy overhaul is nice. I gotta say I am a big fan of this because it adds a whole lot of depth to the game. The biggest issue I'm expecting to see with this, though, is going to be on the AI's part. And I'm not gonna be surprised when the AI just does like completely backwards things, like rejects trades flat out because reasons, even though they're mutually beneficial, even though they have a positive standing with you. I'm hoping that because of how much overhaul and love they put in, from what it seemed like, I should say, they put into the diplomacy system, I'm hoping we're going to see something rather fleshed out, perhaps even, redeeming, considering that Total War has notoriously not been known for good diplomacy. Alliances and anything like that is kind of pointless, unless you're playing like factions like the Empire or the Germans and, the more recent Total Wars, where you can just form coalition or confederations and just not have to deal with them by just absorbing them peacefully. So, we'll see. I have a lot of doubt about this, but I don't know.
Are easy to arrange and easy to leave too, but the benefits to maintaining a coalition are clear. Not least that the longer you're in a coalition, the better your diplomatic standing with certain factions becomes. If a faction joins and it turns out to be a thorn in your side, you can call a vote to kick them out, enabling you to manage membership, provided the other members agree. Jumping into a later save now, let's take a look at military alliances. Now, these are a higher commitment form of alliance, and warlords will need to be at the faction rank of Marquis to sign one, though this is not required to join an existing alliance. You can also transition a coalition into a military alliance on the strength of a vote, and again the warlord who proposes this must be a Marquis or better. Yuan Shao's current coalition sees him in league with Liu Biao and his vassals, plus Wang Kuang and Cao Cao. Cao Cao and Liu Biao are all for it, but Wang Kuang isn't, meaning 3 in favour and 1 against. So Wang Kuang leaves the party and we form a military alliance with Cao Cao and Liu Biao. The key differences between coalitions and military alliances revolve around the notion of shared defence. As soon as a military alliance is signed, you become part of a defensive pact.
We kind of already know this, so it's not a whole lot of new stuff.
That member may choose to fight the aggressor in a private war, or call their allies to arms. All members of the alliance are duty-bound to uphold this and will then enter the war.
One thing that I find that I'm going to see an issue with this still is, how is territory divided up after the war? Is there going to be some sort of peace conference like you see in the Paradox games? And on one hand, while I'd like to see that, on the other hand side, I wouldn't, considering the peace conference system doesn't actually work that well. It's not actually that good, because it just ends up making a lot of gimmicky things or very disgusting border gore, which I'm not a fan of. But I don't know, like, how are we going to divvy up territories? Is it going to be some other way? Because here's the problem I see already. Let's say Lioba, right? This guy right here, this faction right here with my mouse. All right, he's boarding here. There's another faction here. Let's say he aids, right? He joins the Board of Help. Now, you took that town, but his army ran over here and took that town. So now we've got this guy who has an empire down here, has territories scattered up here, and there's going to be like a little piece here, and then you're going to have this chunk. It's going to be ugly, and honestly, that's going to be the turn-off of this system already. I'm not going to touch it if that's the case, because it's just, you get territory all mixed up, and granted, you can now trade territories. So at the same time, we can buy those territories, but it's like now I'm punished for being in a military alliance because now I'm spending more money to get the territories that I thought were rightfully mine to begin with. Now again, that's part of the risk of bringing in an alliance. I get that, but it's one of the things like it's just hard to get territories or hard to not have them do something silly or do something weird where like okay, they capture this territory, right? And then let's even make this more extreme for this example. They capture this territory, you capture these two, they capture that territory over there. And then you capture the rest. Like, they've got, like, 2 chunks that aren't connected to their empire down here, and it's just disgusting. It's absolutely fucking terrible. Like, I hate that so much. I just don't know. I don't see it functioning properly. The coalition, the alliances, like, it sounds great on paper, right? But in practice, without some sort of peace conference-based system, I doubt we'll see anything interesting out of that.
You can also declare an alliance war against a third party, which of course goes to an immediate vote with the members. If the majority vote yes, the alliance will go to war with the target faction. There are only 2 ways to resolve an alliance war. Either you leave the alliance and sign
these people
peace
don't even look
with
Chinese. I just want to
Imperial
point that out.
Or the alliance votes as a group, and once again, a majority vote is
This is so
needed.
weird.
Both
Like, I
sides
guess they're going for an
agree.
art style, because these guys
Any
don't even
minorities
look
opposing
Chinese. That's the
peace
weird
will
part.
leave the alliance and continue in private wars
let's
against
see.
the original targets. Neither coalition.
Just a minor art thing I wanted to point out.
Engaging in private wars, of course. You can still declare war or sign peace with other individual factions at your leisure. Now, all of this adds up to a system where, over the course of a campaign, you'll see coalitions form over time as different warlords' goals and situations align. The AI.
I imagine this coalition system is going to get really bad in terms of like I'm assuming the worst here, right? But okay, let's ignore some of the things he said, about the cool stuff, and let's focus on the coalition, right? So these coalitions, as the game proceeds, as the guy just said, will form up, and they'll see different variations of coalitions form everywhere. So what you're going to get is you're going to get to the point where you're like, oh, I can declare war on, like, a nation. But now I'm going to be at war with, like, everybody. And it's just, like, these massive, like, conflicts between these coalitions over and over again. And you can go by yourself and be an individualist faction, but now you're punished for it because now everyone's in these gargantuan coalitions. And considering the past with how diplomacy works, good luck getting them to peace out with you. I see myself being highly annoyed with the game. In fact, I see myself looking for mods to disable the coalition function, if it functions that way. Again, I'm pointing out the negative aspect, I just want to point that out. But considering the past record of CA's diplomacy, my expectations are going to be low, and I'm not going to be, looking like, oh yeah, that's totally going to work. No, I doubt it. Especially because this is the first time they're implementing it in game design. First time you implement,
frequently. Some coalitions will be fleeting and will fall apart as goals diverge. Some will endure to become distinct power blocks, and some will solidify into powerful military alliances that the world begins to revolve around. Indeed, wars between significant long-term alliances become more common as the campaign reaches its later stages. Another classic diplomacy feature also makes its return in Three Kingdoms, and that's region trading. Alongside
a feature that should have never have fucking disappeared to begin with, but at the same time it was annoying and needed to be overhauled. See, that's the problem with CA's mentality. Instead of fixing the issue, they always just cut it out, and they normally never bring it back in. In this case, they did bring it back in, so that's good. That is, like I said, there are a lot of good things I see about the diplomacy, but there's some things that I will have to see in practice.
And numerous other diplomatic treaties, Territory can now be used as a bargaining tool in diplomacy.
Only neighboring factions can trade territories. Territory within faction capital commanderies cannot be traded. So there are some limits to that. That's good that they put limits on it, because I can see Xiao Xiao over there fucking selling his fucking left kidney for some random schmuck territory far off the other side. That is a solution. That fixes some of the empire problems, with Greece being like, oh, Britain, like, what do you want, fucking Greece? Greece like, give me that fucking territory in fucking, like, Europe that you just conquered, or fucking over by friggin' America. Give it. It's like, get out of here, you little shit. And the worst part is they'd ask you every goddamn turn. Oh my god. Terrible. Either way, that I like the idea of bringing back trade territories, and only neighboring factions can trade territories. Territory within the faction capital and commanderies cannot be traded. So you can only trade with neighboring factions. And I'm hoping you can only trade territories adjacent or bordering to. Because capitals, commanderies cannot be traded. Exchange territory or gift it to this faction. So, like, let's say, see, this is not interesting in this campaign, because Three Kingdoms is eh. But in Medieval 2 situation, that is cool. Or if they did in a Medieval Total War, imagine doing the Crusades, right? And then getting the choice to turn it over to a Crusade or form a Crusader kingdom, or you can return to the Byzantine or the Roman Empire, as you wish to prefer. That could be really cool. Or if you're doing a jihad, you can give it over to Sultan Abdul over in the Mamluk territory. Like, I see these systems benefiting from a medieval setting more than a Three Kingdoms setting. Then again, Three Kingdoms, while it's nice, and I hope they push the art style, by the way. From looking at the campaign map and looking at everything I've seen so far, they're definitely pushing hard. It's not a historical game. Like, if you were to tell me that, I'd just laugh at you. This is a fantasy game. It's granted, it appears to be like it's obviously a low fantasy setting, but it's still a fantasy. This game is not historical in any shape or form, in the slightest. So I'm still wondering when we're going to see a historical title, and I hope to God CA cancels those godforsaken sagas. Those things are trash.
Diplomacy, and it's about the most valuable commodity going. It's a useful way of garnering major value to strike big deals, especially later in the campaign where you may have a surfeit of territory. If we approach Cao Cao and click the Trade Territory option, all our owned regions are shown, listed by commandery, with their constituent regions detailed below. You can only trade away regions which are adjacent to the territory
the farms separate again?
dealing with. So if we were to offer territory to Cao Cao, we can see that only Yingshuan Commandery is tradable, as it's the only one next to his lands. As you can see, productive farmland is very desirable, so we can demand a lot in return. In this case, let's try 4 food per turn for 10 turns, and a regular payment of...
So diplomacy seems to be done by a point system, and the game, instead of hiding it under like a rug, where the player can't see it, they've decided to reveal us the hidden mechanic. The hidden mechanic is always that it's just a number. It really is. It's all numbers. But you can see that the AI values that territory at 24 points. That they value at 7. So it's basically addition, basic subtraction. It's rather mundane, but at the same time it gives us a more controllable AI. Like, it's going to be a lot better in this case, because at least now you can kind of see what's going on under the hood, rather than low chance of acceptance, or like, they don't really want to do that, and then you have to try it and it fails and then it doesn't work, and you're like, god damn it. So now we get a little bit more... In fact, no, this is kind of sad, because instead of, going to make the diplomacy, work, they just like, yeah, no, just show the player how it works, like, under the hood. And well, that's nice and all, but it does gamify it quite a bit. Because now you're just seeing number values, min-maxing, stuff like that. Maybe that's me, probably just me. I like to play fluff, so I don't play for min-max.
A big ticket item like a tract of farmland can be useful in deals where the warlord's asking price may be high.
So you can push it.
These many changes to diplomacy enable you to achieve more than ever before.
See, you need to have a good value. Oh, what did that say?
More than ever before.
Oh god, it was right there and I fucking closed it. What an idiot. There we go. Oh, that's gonna drive me up the wall, fellas. Shut up, ever before, you little fucking bastard. Alright, 24. This is a summary of what this leader thinks about the deal. He thinks +1. He's like, I'd rate that deal a 1 out of fucking 1 million. It's like, what does that mean? A positive one. It's got a plus by it. Oh, Chow Chow, you fucking opportunistic manipulator. Looks like you're getting manipulated now, boy.
4. With a host of new big-ticket assets to trade, and with the ability to forge mighty alliances between powerful warlords, the campaign power play in Total War 3 Kingdoms is at once more subtle, more complex, and more far-reaching than ever before. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.
That movement's probably a little glitchy. It launches in 3 months. I want you to bear that in mind. So it's going to be a while. I do like the whole idea of these little sub-territories. And with the return of what looks like actual siege battles, thank God for that. Hopefully we'll see some pretty good town battles too. On rivers, bridge battles, etc., etc. I do like the campaign art style. You know what it does remind me of? It doesn't remind me so much of fucking... this might actually be bad for some, but it reminds me of Borderlands, the way those things are outlined in the cartoonish fashion that they are, versus when it's revealed, it looks, slightly stylized, looks like it's going for definitely that sort of Chinese style to it, which I think is good. I think it's good that they're going for the art style. It's okay to push the art style and still try to do historical. In this case, it's low fantasy, but, you get the point. They do claim that there's a feature to switch it, but I find it so laughable that they have a function to switch to historical versus fantasy when the game is already clearly appealing to the fantasy aspect. The portraits alone tell me fantasy. The game's a fantasy. They're so over-the-top, overdone, ridiculous sets of armor that would never exist and so intricately woven. It's like, oh, that's not what the armor would look like. That's not at all. It's way too, I don't even know what you call it. Like World of Warcraft, right? The Warcraft franchise is really cool. But their armor sets are fantasized. Like, they're ridiculous. They don't make any sense at all. They don't function. It's like Warhammer, same thing. Or, well, Warhammer Fantasy is low fantasy, so it actually makes more sense. But, I don't know. I see a lot of good things, but I'm more so concerned with the AI. The AI in the past has always been inept as sin at this whole diplomacy function. And the fact that they're definitely wanting to make it revolve around it makes me raise more questions. Granted, if it does work, if it does, that would be amazing. That would be awesome. That would be a step in the right direction, I think, because this Total War does feel like they're trying to innovate again, which is something I've desperately missed. After seeing Total War Warhammer and playing Attila and playing, Saga, they were playing it safe, and they were playing it safe the wrong way. There's a difference between playing it safe and there's a difference between innovation. And innovation for the sake of innovation is also a sin as well. But it seems like they're pushing the diplomacy aspect, and I do hope we see continual to refine diplomacy systems throughout the Saga, or not Saga, fuck that shit, throughout the Total War franchise. And I do hope that either A, we will get a Medieval 2 remaster at some point, or we'll get a Medieval setting. Because I don't know, I've been really itching for Medieval more than anything in the world. Just because it's a great setting. But they definitely, if they're going to do that, they need to, wait till there's a new engine, because the Warscape engine has long outlived its day. It's almost like World of Warcraft's, not to bring that up again, but where it's running on the modified Warcraft 3 engine, which is over 16 or 17 years old. It's fucking ancient. Granted, you can push an engine quite far, and the thing about that engine is it was pretty strong to begin with. The Warscape engine has always been notoriously weak when it comes to siege battles and just unit pathing in general. It seems to struggle with the most simplest and mundane of tasks, which is why in Total War Warhammer you saw the removal of a lot of features and functions on the battle map to make it streamlined, to make it mundane, so that the AI could handle it, so to speak. And in most cases the AI does actually handle it. Well, it gets by. You can easily cheese the AI and it won't take you long to conquer the campaign map. But either or, it's kind of fun still. That has to do with the fantasy element. Maybe in the Warhammer setting might actually help a lot too. Again, looking at this, I got optimism from this a little bit. Not much, all things considered, because Thrones of Britannia is still the last and most recent Total War, and probably the worst. In my eyes, it will probably remain the worst forever, just because the whole idea of sagas is a cash grab. It's like, oh, small historical settings that we've never really touched up on before. Even though, you know, we kind of did do the whole Britain thing in fucking Medieval 2, granted, different period of time, but at the same time... Or actually, no, we already did it in Medieval 1. Hold on, I'm sorry, we already did that. CA, you lie. But either or, like, it's just not that interesting. Britannia as a whole is just one culture group, and the cultures... I don't know, I find the ideas of cultures battling and, you know, waging war, or difference of religion and cultures and people, I find that more interesting than just civil wars. Civil wars are kind of, they make me a little sleepy. But Shogun 2 got away with it because it was so well designed. Three Kingdoms, I'm hoping. I want it to succeed more than anything ever. I don't want it to fail. I want Creative Assembly to succeed more than anything. But the thing is, they don't adhere to fans, and they definitely have spit on us once or twice, considering they all called us, you know, a bunch of names when the whole Rome 2 fiasco thing, which is a know-nothing issue, really. But the fact that they took that action obviously fucking means that they don't view their fans very highly. And they are politicizing. So hopefully Creative Assembly can wake up before it's too late and not politicize. Again, when making a game, when making your game, when doing your game, just some advice to someone else, or I guess to another creator, don't politicize it. Don't shove narratives or themes down people's throats against their will. No one's going to like that. Nobody likes it when you tell them how to, you know, drink or how to hold their fucking spoon. Granted, if they're holding it retardedly, you know, you can fucking comment on it, but still, it's not very okay. Like, I don't see that as any way okay to criticize the players or to go attack them based on their beliefs. When the players give criticism, it's, you know, obviously you adhere to some, and you know, take some with a little bit of grain of salt, because as a developer, you know, you're pushing a game in a certain direction, you want it to be a certain way, and there's a certain goal that you're trying to reach. But at the same time, you can't go around just being retarded like you did with Rome 2 and be like, we just put women on it, it's not supposed to be historically accurate. Well, the thing is, Creative Assembly, you fucking idiots, is you are making historical games. Whether you are selling them to us on the notion that they are historical. You are lying, and you are lying about this game being historical, because after looking at it, it's not historical. You're going for a heavy stylized theme, you're going for the whole Chinese culture thing, and I think that's great. I think that's cool. I got nothing against that. Hell, I hope one day you did make Lord of the Rings Total War or a Warcraft Total War. That'd be fucking swell. More fantasies, more fantasies. That's great. I love it. But historical titles as well, alongside those, and just as potent and just as strong. That's why I hope we see a touch. I think it'd be nice to see a Medieval 3. Maybe that's just the reason. If we go back there, we make another Medieval 3, right? It would touch base, it would refreshen the franchise back into the medieval theme. Not to mention there's so many avenues to explore, holy Christ. The varying culture groups, the varying factions and nations. Make the map bigger. Hell, make it CK2 style big. Like, Medieval 2 engulfs all the way to India. Bam. Sold. Also, you want to make this game sell like fucking hotcakes? Incorporate Korea, incorporate Japan, and I'm not kidding, incorporate them to the map, add them to the map. I don't care fucking how you do it, just do it. It adds more flavor to the game. It makes it not only bigger, but it makes it have more factions and cultures clashing. And add the Mongol invasion. Oh my goodness. Or just add the Mongolians. That would be great too. I think that would be amazing. Because if it wasn't just China, if it was Korea, Japan, maybe some tribals in the north, and then obviously the Mongols, that could really pop. That would sing for me. Especially the Mongols. Oh, God. The throat singing. The throat singing. That'd be awesome. And then Japanese with their whole instruments. I love that shit. But either way, I have hopes for it. But again, we've seen those hopes dashed before with Rome 2. So we'll keep an eye on it. And I'll be covering Total War from this point onwards now. Yes, I'm getting back into it. Probably shouldn't. Probably going to regret my decisions. But hey, I don't have any other thing to do right now, so I was like, yeah, why not? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, Captain Kibs, signing off, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, you have yourself a glorious day.